Let me be clear. I emphatically support our law enforcement personnel. And you've seen in the various communities across the nation where they're defunding police, they're disrespecting our police. That will not happen in Nevada under my administration. We will ensure that the police are adequately resourced to protect our citizens. Regardless of what takes place in the coming months, as your governor, I commit to you that I will not come between you and your doctor. Mask mandates, vaccine mandates, and as our current governor is practicing medicine without a license and prohibiting certain medicines, I will not come between you and your doctor. And that is my commitment to you voters. Yeah, I think sometimes we forget that Nevada's not just Clark County, Las Vegas, and Reno, or Washoe County. You know, there's 17 counties in Nevada, and oftentimes the rural regions are forgotten. But more importantly, to give them a step ahead, we need to provide the resources for their children's education so that they can be successful in life. As your governor, I'm going to make every effort to work with legislature to provide the rurals with the educational resources so their children have a step up in life. Republicans held off this tax for 15 years as the margin tax. They changed the name to the commerce tax and passed it against the will of the people. As your governor, I will work with the legislature to repeal this tax. And if they refuse, I will turn it over to the will of the people. I will champion a referendum, and you, the people, will decide what to do with this tax. Well, I believe that the full basis of fair election has to do with having voter ID. As your governor, I'm going to work with legislators to pass voter ID requirement laws. And should I not be able to do that, I'm going to champion a referendum for the people and let them decide on how to protect their vote. Let me tell you why Nevada needs an Office of Inspector General. Currently, Nevada has tremendous amounts of fraud, waste, and abuse. The government's ineffective and inefficient. We need a group of people that focus on those issues to save taxpayer dollars. And as your next governor, we're going to make that happen. As a former military member, I took an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. Right now, our Second Amendment is under attack. Currently, you have to get permission from the sheriff to exercise your right. And as your governor, with your help, we will make Nevada a constitutional carry state. Well, we need to absolutely fund the voucher program. The previous legislatures have chosen not to fund this. I will work with the legislature to either get this funded through the legislature or do a referendum to put the parents back in charge of their children's education. CRT is morally wrong. It's a Marxist indoctrination of our children that teaches them that they're either an oppressor or a victim based on their skin color. That's wrong. And as long as I'm governor, this will not be taught in Nevada schools. As governor of Nevada, I'm going to work with legislature to pass legislation that prevents private companies from controlling your freedom of speech on their platforms. I want to cut the state budget by 10% because there's too much fraud, waste, and abuse in our government here. The government is unresponsive to the citizens, and we've got the good old boy culture going on, and we can do better for Nevadans. Let me be clear. I emphatically support our law enforcement personnel. And you've seen in the various communities across the nation where they're defunding police, they're disrespecting our police. That will not happen in Nevada under my administration. We will ensure that the police are adequately resourced to protect our citizens. Regardless of what takes place in the coming months, as your governor, I commit to you that I will not come between you and your doctor. Mask mandates, vaccine mandates, and as our current governor is practicing medicine without a license and prohibiting certain medicines, I will not come between you and your doctor. And that is my commitment to you voters. Yeah, I think sometimes we forget that Nevada's not just Clark County, Las Vegas, and Reno, or Washoe County. There's 17 counties in Nevada. And oftentimes, the rural regions are forgotten. But more importantly, to give them a step ahead, we need to provide the resources for their children's education so that they can be successful in life. As your governor, I'm going to make every effort to work with legislature to provide the rurals with the educational resources so their children have a step up in life. Republicans held off this tax for 15 years as the margin tax. They changed the name to the commerce tax and passed it against the will of the people. As your governor, I will work with the legislature to repeal this tax. And if they refuse, I will turn it over to the will of the people. I will champion a referendum, and you, the people, will decide what to do with this tax.
Welcome to the Tom Heck for Governor Digital Town Hall. Drop into the group chat and join the conversation. This is your chance to get to know Tom, make a comment, or ask him anything you want to know about his plans as the next governor of Nevada. And Tom will take your comments and your questions and answer them live. If you'd like to join the Tom Heck team as a volunteer, to make a donation, or both, please visit electheck.com. Now, without any further ado, let's get the show rolling. Welcome to the Tom Heck for Governor Digital Town Hall.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Tim Kramer, and I am hosting tonight with Tom Heck. Let me get a light on here so we can actually see me. We are hosting our third digital town hall. We do it every Monday night. And let me introduce myself real quick. I am Tom Heck's digital guru and campaign strategist. We are working on bringing you the ability to talk directly with the candidate on a weekly basis. And let's get that underway right now. Bring in Tom. And Tom, let's get started here. Well, let's get you so everybody can see what you are and what you're doing. Introduce yourself. Those of those out there that are unfamiliar with who Tom Heck is and why he's running for governor in the state of Nevada.
I'm Tom Heck. I'm running because career politicians have failed us and they continue to fail us. And if we give them the opportunity, they'll fail us again and again. It's time for a revolution in government and politics, and I'm the guy to do that.
So when you say that you're going to revolutionize politics, what do you mean by that?
Well, right now, the Republican Party is spending a lot of your donated money fighting amongst themselves. They're kind of choosing who you can hear and who you can't hear. For those of you who didn't see what went on at the Republican convention on Saturday, there was only one governor candidate on the ballot. Well, the rules for that endorsement from the GOP, which they said they weren't going to endorse candidates, but the rule for it was you had to take a survey. It was a pretty long survey. And then if you took the survey, then you could do an oral or choose not to do the oral. Or if you didn't take the survey, you had to do an oral. Well, the only guy on that, the only guy that was on the list for the people to vote for at the GOP convention was Lombardo. And unfortunately, he never completed the survey, nor did he complete the oral. I completed both. I didn't make it on the sheet of paper. So basically, for all of you voters out there, the bottom line is you guys are being told who to vote for. And if you look at it, it's pretty simple. The people that are being put forth are the ones that have a lot of money. It's not the ones that are qualified. And from my standpoint, the people that get to choose who to vote for are you guys. You guys get to choose who you want to be your next governor.
Well, one of the things that's really important to you is education. So let's talk about that. One of the things in the state that's had some of the biggest issues is the education system, meaning that they continue to pour money into the education system here in Nevada. Career politicians just spent another 40% over an 8-year period with not an uptick in the scores. What would you do differently as governor on day one with the education system here in the state of Nevada?
Well, clearly it's not a money problem. And and so what the real issue is that the Department of Education for Nevada has taken all responsibility for improving that. What they basically do is they send the money out to the school districts, and when they send the money out to the school districts, they wash their hand of it. That will not happen under my administration. We will work with each school district on what their funding needs are. And then once we understand their funding needs, we will make sure that they have goals and objectives for those funding needs. And then they will have overriding outcomes that they'll provide to ensure that we get us out of 50th in the nation. And the key part is the accountability. At the end of the year, we will do a review with them of their spending. We'll review their goals and objectives and their outcomes. And if they're not producing and meeting the goals and objectives of the outcomes, we're going to cut their funding in subsequent budgets. We can't afford to waste any more on education and still remain 50th in the country. We spend the same amount as Florida, and we're 50th, and they're number 3.
For those of you joining us tonight, feel free to jump into the comments section. You can either do it through the front side of the website at electech.com, or you can do it through the Facebook or YouTube. You can join in and give your comments, and we'll be able to see them here live. So as we're going through, make sure that you join into the conversation and let us know questions that you have for Tom. One of the questions here, Tom, is what are you going to do as governor about the situation of medical resources not being as widely distributed throughout the rural area? How would you address the rurals and medical help in those?
Well, I have made a commitment to the rurals in my op-ed. I wrote an op-ed called "The Forgotten Rural Region," And in that op-ed, I talk about, actually, I make a commitment. And my commitment to the rurals is that I will visit the rurals, each rural area, their major cities, once a year. On top of that, my commitment is I'm going to develop a staffer for 4 rurals, approximately 4 rural areas. And that staffer will go out to the rurals every quarter and report back as to what their needs are, what's working, what's not working. And then we're going to develop a plan to make sure we make improvements. And same as infrastructure. We were out to Sandy Valley, and my strategist here came in from Pahrump, where I came in from Las Vegas, and he drove this dirt road. Well, this road, what's important about this road is that the people in Sandy Valley use it in emergencies to get medical, more advanced medical care in Pahrump. Well, the problem, it's a dirt road, so you can only go about 15, 20 miles an hour. When I asked, well, why is it still dirt road? Well, there's this argument that this is BLM land, and so the federal people got to fund it, and the state can't fund it. You know what? That's not how it works under my administration. We're going to fix the damn road, and if there's an issue who pays for it, I'll take the feds to court, and we'll sue them to pay for the damn road. Because we can't afford to let the rural regions suffer because we got bureaucrats arguing over who should pay for it. Unacceptable to me, and surely unacceptable to all of you.
Well, it seems like here in the nation, not just in Nevada, but across the nation, there are a ton of people that are fairly upset. You can say that they're pissed about the way things are being done in states across the country, including the state of Nevada. And it doesn't help that we've got poor leadership in the White House. What does your leadership qualifications bring to the governor's office? And talk about why you think your leadership capabilities and the training that you received through the military is so beneficial to the people of Nevada.
Well, for those of you who don't know, I went to the Air Force Academy. The Air Force Academy is a leadership lab. Once you pass your freshman year, or we call it 4th degree year, every year you have jobs. As a sophomore, you'll have an element job. As you become a sophomore, you'll have a more senior job, but you'll be responsible for people. And in each of those jobs, as you become a senior, like I was a flight commander as a senior, and I had 30 or 40 people that I was responsible for. So you learn how to lead people, but the other piece of it is you also learn how to follow. But in addition to that, you take that leadership learning, and what they teach there is situational leadership, and you take it out into the real Air Force. And I spent 23 years perfecting my leadership abilities. On top of that, I've added significant education that allows me to quickly synthesize issues and problems and come to a resolution. So it's all that leadership ability and exercising it over 40 years that I bring to the table. There's no one that has that leadership ability like I do running for governor.
Okay, well, I'm going through the chat, the questions that are coming up here. I just want to make sure that people understand that they can go into the chat. They can jump in on Facebook or on YouTube. They can ask their questions. They can make their comments, and we'll see them here. It doesn't matter where you are. Or you can come directly to electech.com, and there's a chat section below the video on the homepage, and you can jump in there. So we'd love to see your questions. One of the questions that we got tonight is, what are you going to do about the commerce tax here in the state of Nevada?
Well, first off, I just want to remind people that was another Republican failure. We had majority in the Assembly, we had the majority in the Senate, and we had a governor that was Republican, and it was a margins tax. And for 15 years, Republicans held off this tax. The Democrats were pushing. Well, that group of people, they passed it and changed the name and passed it as the commerce tax. When I am your governor, I will work with the legislature immediately to repeal that commerce tax. And if that doesn't work, I'm going to take it to the people, because before that happened, there was an informational referendum. 78% of Nevadans voted against that tax. That is criminal to violate your desires as voters. So I will repeal that tax, either through the legislature, or I will take it to a referendum and you all can repeal it.
Well, that's one of the things that came up that some people have heard you talk on time and time again about using the referendum process. Walk through that and what that process is, and how it benefits the people of Nevada doing that process as opposed to just letting the legislature take care of it.
Well, the biggest part of that process is getting enough signatures in the required amount of time. And once you get it on the signature, it becomes a part of the ballot for the next election. So we'll start that almost immediately once you all elect me as the next governor. And basically start collecting signatures in the period that we're allowed to do that. We'll raise money so that we have people collecting the signatures, and so we follow the rules to the letter. Because again, the Democrats have changed the rules and how referendums are run, so it's more beneficial to them. But we're going to follow the rules, we're going to beat them, and we're going to get that repealed.
Well, just to prove that this is
actually 2 elections to repeal it.
Exactly. Well, and it'll happen in the third year. The referendums in the state of Nevada, it would take until the third year of your administration to be able to get to that because of the laws of Nevada and how referendums must be held. With that being said, we've got some interesting information that's coming across the wires here as we're talking. There's a report that has been released from SCOTUS, and it looks like the
court of the U.S.
The Supreme Court of the United States is what we're talking about here. It looks as if they are going to overturn Roe v. Wade. There was a draft that has been leaked. That's serious news for anybody who leaked it. That's criminal time. But it looks like the language is leading people to believe that the courts are going to overturn Roe v. Wade, which would be amazing underneath a Democrat president in office, and especially one that is as far left as the Biden administration is. What are your thoughts, Tom? And do you applaud them, or are you excited about them?
Well, absolutely. I'm unapologetically 100% pro-life. Anybody that's a constitutionalist will understand that this previous ruling was done by basically creating law, and it was based that they came up with some belief that there's a privacy granting of rights in the Constitution, and there is no specific amendment to the Constitution that grants a privacy right. So this was a erroneous ruling anyway, in my opinion. And with this being, it's not unexpected that they would be overturned, because we have more constitutionalists now that are interpreting the law, that are not interpreting the law or creating the law. They're actually basically following the Constitution and ruling based on the Constitution as written.
Well, I've gone back online and I'm looking here now. Politico, a number of major outlets are now reporting Supreme Court has voted to overturn abortion rights, draft opinion shows. Now, again, this was a leaked draft opinion. We hold that Roe and Casey must be overruled, Justice Alito writes in an initial majority draft circulated inside the court. So big news tonight that it looks like we may finally be done with Roe v. Wade.
And then basically that turns it back to the states.
Exactly.
It turns that.
Exactly.
Yeah, it turns it back to the states now, and then each state has to rule as to how they want to deal with the right to life, is what the real bottom line is.
Right. So what I'm looking at here is we've got here. Let's see. If there's any more information about it. This is being reported on in Politico right now. The Supreme Court has voted to strike down the landmark Roe v. Wade decision, according to an initial draft majority opinion written by Justice Samuel Alito, circulated inside the court and obtained by Politico. The draft opinion is a full-throated, unflinching repudiation of the 1973 decision, which guaranteed federal constitutional protections of abortion rights, and a subsequent 1992 decision, Planned Parenthood versus Casey, that largely maintained the right. Roe was egregiously wrong from the start, Alito writes. And then it goes on. They've got a if you go to a Politico, they've got a PDF version of it here, and one of the strongest pieces of language is we hold that Roe and Casey must be overruled, he writes in the document labeled as the opinion of the court. It is time to heed the Constitution and return the issue of abortion to the people's elected representatives, the legislatures of each state. So big news breaking tonight on the Tom Heck Digital Town Hall. Roe v. Wade, it looks like, may be overturned. The Supreme Court this has just been released on Politico tonight. Tom, let's walk down that. We've been talking about for the last few weeks in these conversations that you would jump on and do the exact same thing that Abbott has done in Texas, as well as the governor of Oklahoma, in being very restrictive on the capability of having an abortion. How would this ruling affect what you would plan to do in the state of Nevada?
Well, it won't affect what I had planned to do, because I am unapologetically a right to life candidate, and we will continue to support that effort to protect life, and no matter where. And so my goal is to make sure that we protect life. There are a lot of families out there that are looking for children that can't have them, and we're just going to go down that path, and we'll learn from the other states the things that they have done, and we'll do our best to follow up with that. And then basically, right to life is sacrosanct, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And they say that men don't have shouldn't have a voice in this conversation, but men are half of the children that are born, and so I think that we have to defend the men who are murdered as well inside the womb. So let's talk about the next issue. This is another big one that's going to be coming down the pike here soon, and that's the Second Amendment right. Some say on the left that if you can't be pro-life and pro-gun at the same time. Walk us down that path and how you can be pro-life and be pro-gun, Tom.
Well, I just saw an article the other day. The article was they had done a study and found that those basically zip codes that had the largest number of concealed carry had the fewest numbers of burglaries. Isn't that a surprise? So my goal with the Second Amendment in Nevada is we're going to make it constitutional carry. In the meantime, we must remember, it doesn't say maybe have the right to bear arms. It says shall. Shall means shall, and it basically says unimpeded by government. So basically, we're going to go after that. And right now, in most sheriff's offices, it takes about 10 days to get a concealed carry permit. I'm going to reduce that to 5 and push sheriff office to speed that up. And the other thing I'm going to do, a right means it's a right. You shouldn't be limited by having to pay a fee to get a concealed carry while we're waiting to get constitutional carry. And then the other piece of it is we have groups of people that we need to protect. You know, the abused women and the stalkers who are victims of stalkers. Any one of those groups that have credible evidence that they could be a victim, we're not going to depend on the protection order. That they're basically what the piece of, they say, go get a protection order. Well, that doesn't work. So I'm going to issue an executive order requiring the sheriff's department to find a way to protect these people, and then until they can legally get them a concealed carry permit. And in the meantime, they'll protect. The other piece of my belief is, I believe as governor, my most important duty is to protect Nevadans. And part of that is making sure wherever they live, work, and play, they're protected. Well, right now, we have gun-free zones. And anybody that's paid attention to the news, where do the shootings happen? Most of the shootings, almost all the shootings, happen in gun-free zones. So what we're going to do is, I'm okay with agencies, facilities having gun-free zones. That's fine. But I will issue an executive order requiring those gun-free zones to provide armed protection for Nevada citizens. So wherever they work, live, and play, that they're protected from the violence that happens because of gun-free zones. I mean, go look at the history. They're either in churches, they're in schools, they're in bars, and they're in other gun-free areas. That will stop under my administration. My most sacrosanct and sacred duty is to protect Nevadans, and I take that very, very seriously.
Let's talk about roads again. A lot of interest in infrastructure around the state. Now, coming from Indiana, I've got to say that Nevada roads are in pretty good shape, considering the heat they get on a regular basis. Indiana, our roads are crap. So I like the roads here, but infrastructure is more than just roads. Let's talk about that, Tom. Your experience in developing infrastructure for both the military and other cities around the country. Talk about your experience in that and what role that plays in your role as governor.
Well, for those who don't know, I'm an engineer by schooling. In the Air Force, at Travis Air Force Base, which is in Northern California, I developed implemented and executed an $834 million 5-year design construction program. While I was there, we had about $200 million being constructed. And I put that all together. So I fully understand infrastructure. One of the BRAC projects required us to build secondary electrical distribution, simulators, and big facilities, 25,000, 35,000 square foot facilities. And I was involved in almost every decision made for those facilities. And then expanded beyond that. I was a consultant for several years. I worked in Yuba City. I was responsible for building a mile of road with the associated infrastructure, which was telephone, utilities such as water, sewer, gas, and of course the roads and the curbs, gutter, and sidewalks. And that mile of road was going to support a Chili's, an In-N-Out Burger, a Hampton Inn, and a Kohl's. And so it was very critical infrastructure. And then in addition to that, I managed a $20 million project to basically, they called it a streetscape project, just to make the whole downtown for Yuba City pedestrian friendly. And it turned out to be a fabulous project. The complication of it was that we actually had to drop the road a foot and put in and move a 12-inch water line and lower it, and then rebuild the road and associated infrastructure with it.
So really, really boring stuff that you're really into and fully understand.
Someone like me, an engineer.
Right. Well, and that's
but
the issue.
When it comes to Nevada, I really understand infrastructure for developments and for the state.
Well, I think it's imperative for people to understand that the majority of our politicians, and I've been in politics for the last 10, 15 years, the majority of our politicians, number one, are attorneys. They have no skill set outside of the law. So when you ask them about engineering, or you ask them about medical, or you ask them about anything that doesn't have to do with the law, they're really kind of stupid. So with what you've done with the military, what do you think, what role does the governor play in deciding infrastructure deals or being able to understand that? What role do you think you'll play in your administration in those type of discussions or negotiations?
Well, I think I can use Travis as the example, because we have limited resources, but we need them to be brought to bear on those things were most important. At Travis, we really were short on money for certain things. And so we boiled it down very simply. The first thing we're going to do is make sure we repaired the roofs. And this may not apply exactly, but it's the idea and the priority. We basically decided we were going to fix, repair, and replace roofs. And then the next thing we're going to do is make sure that we had a climate within the facilities that was comfortable for people to work. We had adequate lighting, that we took care of computer and IT needs, information technology, and then we made sure that everything else was working properly. So it's about prioritization. So we work across the state and find out what things are most critical based on some overarching priorities, and we take those overarching priorities and we apply them to the various areas, and then we work through a priority list and develop them based on needs and importance and criticality. And what people don't understand is if you don't do the basic maintenance and you don't do the basic stuff, the cost goes up exponentially over the years. And oftentimes, I remember the city of Reno. I actually was the deputy public works director for the city of Reno for 5 years. And one of the things that when I rolled in to the city of Reno, the whole city council was fired because the roads were so bad. But they took an ineffective approach to repairing the roads. They wanted to rebuild the roads, basically cut them up, take them out, and then rebuild them. The problem was they didn't spend any money on maintaining them. And people who understand asphalt concrete know that as
Right.
And I'm getting into the weeds, right, Kramer?
Yep.
But the bottom line is you have to maintain those good roads and they'll last forever, and then fix the ones that have to really be reconstructed.
Well, and that's the point, is we see across the country is that we've got bridges that have not been maintained for 50, 60 years as if they're going to last forever. They've got to be maintained for us to be able to count on them. We've got a question here from Talkative Citizen. It says, Mother's Day is coming up. As governor, how are you going to empower Nevada mothers to educate their children as they see fit? Talk about your plan for education, then we'll come back right after that and play a new commercial where Tom discusses what his plans are for education.
Well, I have several degrees, and what's important about that is I really do understand how important education is. Children are our future, And we have to empower mothers for sure, but we certainly have to empower parents. And the way we do that is through fully funded school vouchers. The money follows the child. And that's how we make sure that parents are in the driver's seat for their children's education.
And let me jump in on that and clarify, Tom, just so everybody understands, because there's two issues at play that people talk about all the time. This is what gets confusing, is the difference between a school voucher and school choice. They go hand in hand, but they are different issues. So a school voucher or a voucher would be that you could take your child anywhere they wanted to go. You would have a set amount of dollars from the state that you could take to another public school, or you could take it as down payment or partial payment or full payment for a private school. So that's the school voucher thing. Now, school choice is a completely different issue. And school choice is when the parents have the ability to put their child in any school, any public school within their district. So just for clarification, so everybody understands what we're talking about.
But we want parents to send their kids to where they think they can be best educated. And there's this argument from the Democrats that's saying, well, you're going to take money from the public schools. No, if they really understood this, they would realize that they were going to be forcing public schools to compete with the better schools. And hopefully at some point in time, if we do it perfectly, these other schools will tend to dissipate because it's so much cheaper to do them in the public schools. And then the public schools become better and better and better each and every year.
Well, they're forced into competition, which they're currently not, because the private schools are so cost prohibitive for most families that even with the help from the government, they can't, or they're getting their tax dollars back, I should say, not help from the government, getting their tax dollars back and being able to spend them where they want to go. There still isn't enough there for most people to go, for most children to go to private schools. That could change everything. When it becomes more competitive, what you'll see is private schools open up. You'll see charter schools open up. It'll offer competition to the state that you don't currently have. With that being said, and we've been talking about education here for a while, we're going to come back in just a moment and answer a question for Joyful Character. But in the meantime, we want to play Tom's new TV commercial. And this is the education commercial that we'll be releasing this week. Enjoy.
And I approve this message.
Why is the Nevada education system last in the nation? Simple. Career politicians don't care about your children's education. If they did, Nevada wouldn't rank last. Tom Heck is running for governor for one reason: to revolutionize Nevada state government, beginning with education. But if 50th place is good enough for your kids, just keep voting for the career politicians. Otherwise, it's time to vote for a proven conservative leader. It's time to vote Tom Heck for governor.
There you go. And that is what we are starting with. Education is probably one of the biggest issues that we're looking at here in the country, and it's no different here in the state of Nevada. So, Tom, again, talk about the push that you have for education, why it's so important, and why you think that every family should be able to have the best education on the planet. Since we come from the best country on the face of the earth, why hasn't Nevada been able to deliver that for its citizens?
Well, because we focused on providing more and more money. As you mentioned, over the last 8 years, we provided 40% more dollars to the school districts. We're still 50th. That makes it clear. I want to say that again. It makes it clear this is not a money problem. It's an accountability problem. You know, we need to provide remedial training for some of the students who are behind. We need to provide some remedial training and some advanced training special training that basically makes teachers better. In the regular world, they call it continuing ed for teachers, but we need to continually improve teachers. One of the things that I propose doing is right now we've got special ed, and then we've got the lower performing students, the middle performing students, and the higher performing students. And the problem is that right now we teach to the middle. The lower performing students lose. The middle performing students probably do okay, and then the higher performing students lose out. My proposal is each of those three levels will get teachers that will teach to that level and only that level. And at the same time, the kids that are disciplinary problems, malcontents, will be sent to the office and taken care of by the principal. Just like when my dad was the principal of the Naples High School that I went to, they went to in-school suspension and that's where they stayed so that they didn't disrupt the kids. The problem right now is the school systems are forcing the teachers to deal with those disciplinary problems. And what happens? Well, everybody loses. All that contact time with the teacher is lost for those other kids while they're dealing with 1 or 2 kids. So we have to do better at how we do that. And we've got to start thinking out of the box of better way to take care of kids and make sure that they have the ability to learn. Because right now we have jobs in Nevada that we don't have the skill sets to support. Right now, only 19% of K through 12 kids are proficient in science. Only 28% are proficient in math. And only 13% are college ready to go to school. That is unacceptable, and it's criminal in my mind.
And let me give you a difference in education. So the area that I live in Indiana, it's an affluent neighborhood, affluent community, but we have a 98% graduation rate. 92% go on to college and graduate. It can be different. It can be different.
Numbers, I mean, it is absolutely criminal that Nevada is that place. And what do we attribute that to? We attribute it to career politicians who look at this over and over again, throw money at it, and say, I did my best. No, right. Unacceptable. We're going to make this change, and we're going to do it revolutionary, and we're going to make sure that the kids learn to the level they want to be successful for their parents, so their parents have successful kids. They can raise families and children, and their children can be successful. This is the land of opportunity, and Nevada is not providing children in Nevada opportunities because of poor education.
Well, again, the big news tonight coming from Politico is that the Supreme Court has voted to overturn abortion. It looks like they've decided to overturn Roe v. Wade and return it to the states. I can only imagine the number of liberals that are setting their hair on fire tonight. But we have a question here from Joyful Character. It says there was a tweet today by NVAG Aaron Ford that the SCOTUS may be overturning Roe v. Wade this summer. What will you do as governor to protect a woman's right to choice with their doctor, which is what Roe v. is really about?
Well, we've got to protect life. And as I've said before, I am unapologetically 100% pro-life, and we're going to do everything we can to protect life. And we will work with everyone to make sure that happens. And we will continue on similar to Abbott, Governor Abbott and Governor Santos, the governor from Alabama and Oklahoma, and pursue protecting life. And that's what we're going to do in Nevada.
Perfect. Well, I think that's you're seeing that move. You're seeing a lot of states go to that. And what was interesting to me is that, Texas was called out. Oklahoma in particular was called out. It's archaic. Well, we believe on our end that ending the life of a child before birth, that's archaic. And so we believe that this is a move in the right direction. Most conservatives do. Another question here from Talkative Citizen is, criminal activity seems to be out of control with minimal or no consequences for the criminals. I'm going to say that that's in Clark County in particular, but across the country. As governor, what will you do to reduce crime, hold criminals accountable, and protect the citizens of Nevada?
Well, first, I just saw statistics the other day. It was the cities with the worst crime rate in the United States. And guess who was number 6? Number 6 was Clark County. That's a big problem. Clark County's crime rate is almost double New York's, almost double Los Angeles. That is unacceptable. And as I talked about earlier, I feel like my most sacrosanct and sacred duty is to protect Nevadans. And we will do that at every step of the way. One of the things that I talk about is setting up 3 PACs, political action committees. One to support referendums, one to support an army of lawyers to take on anybody that's forcing unconstitutional things on our state and on unconstitutional issues from the feds. And the other one is to support conservative candidates. I am going to support and fund conservative candidates in the primary with your help, with the voters' help. And we will get strong conservative candidates in all these key positions, especially district attorneys. We want the district attorneys to prosecute and send to jail those that are criminally convicted. And this get they call it in Monopoly, get out of jail free. That's going to be over. We're not going to have get out of jail free, so that we can have criminals who kill on one day and then go back out and kill and commit other crimes on another day. That is unacceptable, and that just shows the stupidity of some of the DAs that we have operating.
Well, and that's what we're seeing in San Francisco in particular. I don't know if you saw the footage from just this last weekend where a Walgreens was basically looted to bare shelves from a mob that came in all together and just looted the store all at one time. There's got to be some kind of pushback from the citizenry to stop this kind of thing going on. We're going to share another one of. Go ahead, Tom. Go ahead.
You talked about Walgreens. They've shut down 17 Walgreens in San Francisco because they can't make money because they don't prosecute crimes under $950. So they put them back out on the street.
Right.
And so they've got carte blanche authority to go in and steal from whoever and whatever, as long as it's less than $950. And that is insane.
We're going to go ahead and jump in and show you one of Tom's newest commercials. This will be launching this week. We're kind of excited about the work that we've been doing over the last few weeks, getting prepared for this. What we're going to do here is go ahead and just, for those who have just joined, we're going to have you go back through and show you the education commercial again. And then we'll go through all three of them so you can see all of them, and then we'll come back and talk about them. Oh, doesn't look like it's adding in. Okay. I don't know what's going on here. We'll try and do that here in just a moment. Let's get to another question. We'll show this one here from Vincent Palmieri Jr. Do you think the problem with CCSD? Do you think we should have a civilian review board to oversee constitutional carries? I think that's what he's saying, right? CCSD?
Or is that Clark County School District?
That's what it is. I'm sorry. That's what it is. Sorry, my bad.
Well, first off, Clark County School District is way too big. We're going to break it up into pieces that actually work, and that will also help put the parents back, have more influence over them. And we'll work with a methodology to divide Clark County so that it actually works. And we will not try to increase the overhead like typically they do, but try to increase and solicit accountability. Right now, we have too much wokeness, too much CRT going on. And day one, when I'm your governor, we're going to put a stop to CRT. But it's not just CRT. It's also all the tentacles of socialism and the teaching to children that they're either an oppressor or a victim, unacceptable. And I want to make sure I'm clear with everybody. The only place children learn racism is from their parents, which I think is happening rarely nowadays, or from the school teachers and the school system. So I think obviously from what I've just said, we understand where the problem is in corrupting and indoctrinating our children. It is unacceptable. We're going to put a stop to it.
So with what you're talking about in the education system, there's been a lot of focus here recently on CRT, but one of the other issues that's kind of raised its ugly head is the issue of pornography in children's literature in their libraries in the schools. So parents find out that there's a book, and there's several of them out there that are very graphic. Their children are being asked to read those and then give reports on those. What's your opinion on not book burning, but book appropriateness is going through and finding out how do we get these books out of schools and allow them only for the appropriate people age group to be, I guess.
Well, the other part of that story is those same books that you were talking about were actually read to a city council, and the city council stopped the parent reading it because they said it was inappropriate for the audience. Well, if it's inappropriate for the adult audience, what do you think it is for the children? It's unacceptable. I know I took a parenting class. And in that parenting class, when you talk about sex, you tell the children the biology of it, and then you just answer their basic questions. We are giving them way too much information about stuff they're not interested in or ready to hear, and we're pushing it down their throat, and it's unacceptable to me, and we're going to do a lot better at basically being more judicious as what we do. But the other piece of that is, Kramer, is that in the schools, we're pushing this whole gender dialogue, which nobody understands. And I'm with, I think it was Governor DeSantis today actually said what I've been thinking for a long time. No one under 18 is going to do any surgical transition in Nevada. We're going to pass a law that's going to prevent that, because kids don't know who they are until they're 18. Once they're 18, they can decide for themselves. But up to that time, and the other piece of it is, any discussions about something like that will require physically present involvement of the parents. We are not going to let teachers convince kids that they're transgender when they don't even know who they are. And so This has got to stop. And we're not going to have that in Nevada, I assure you.
Well, I was listening to Wayne Allen Root this afternoon while running some errands here in Las Vegas. And what was interesting is a story that came out about and I didn't get where it was, but it was a school system, a school class that had paired up teenagers to discuss how they would talk each other into sex. I mean, that's sales 101. I get the idea, but what role does school have in educating children, not about biology, about how everything works, but about these woke ideology issues? Where do you think, and this goes way beyond CRT, what role do you think that the school system has in any of this dialogue with students about these ideologies of genders, gender fluidity, and so on?
Well, this is one of those issues that really makes me angry, because we're teaching children things that they're not ready to hear, things that they need to explore on their own and with their parents. And this is just unacceptable to me. And especially in Nevada. I mean, we're teaching these other things, but we can't even get read, writing, and arithmetic taken care of. We need to get reading, writing, and arithmetic taken care of before we launch off into these other things. And this is not age appropriate. Age appropriate for children is what we need to work on. And this whole CRT, this whole sexism in schools is way out of control. And we're going to bring back under control, working with parents and their children, because this got to stop in Nevada.
Right. Because it looks like teachers in schools are grooming kids, is what it looks like.
Well, yeah.
From the outside, that's exactly what it looks like.
And I don't know if you know, but I think the recidivism rate for transgender is like 10%. It means they want to go back to the way they were because they realized that they weren't what they were. And the other piece of it is these hormone treatment. And I don't think that the left is really advertising this, but if you read the literature, these hormone treatment cut their life expectancy by half.
Yep. And that they don't.
And that's not talked about.
Yeah, well, they also don't talk about the high suicide rate of those who have fully transitioned. That once they get everything that they want, then all of a sudden they go, "Oops, I've made a mistake," and there's no way back. So those are all big issues. We've got another big question, and this is information that's just come up in the last couple of days. And let me reiterate, by the way, we're talking tonight about a story that was released in Politico. That the Supreme Court has voted to overturn abortion rights. The draft opinion has been leaked. This is big news. Alito is saying that it's time to return these powers to the state and get them out of the Fed. It would make things a lot easier. And I'll tell you what would happen. The biggest fighter in this is going to be Planned Parenthood, because they get about $500 million a year from the feds. But we have a question here from Vincent again, and he wants to find out if Biden uses his executive power to appoint a truth czar, what can you as governor do or not do to let that happen in Nevada?
Well, remember I talked about my PAC. I'm going to have an army of lawyers, and I'm going to and right now there's like almost 15 to 20 states that are suing Biden almost every single day. I'm going to join that group, and we are not going to have what they call in the communist countries ministries of truth. Ministries of truth. We are not going to have that, and I will do everything in my power to make sure that doesn't happen. And anybody that starts shutting down freedom of speech, I will be there with an army of lawyers and my bully pulpit to make that so visible that those people can't stand that pain.
Well, over the last few weeks, and particularly the last couple of weeks, with Twitter being bought by Elon Musk, there's been a lot of talk, and the Sunday talk shows this last week it was a dumpster fire for them, honestly, because they were losing their minds, saying that the right's now going to take over everything, and you're going to be able to you're not going to be able to trust anything that's in the media. All of these accusations of things that they say is going to happen that are currently happening right now. I
But
mean,
it's
the
in the
media is
favor of
doing
the left.
exactly what they say, and they don't even see it. So address that. Free speech on social media platforms. How, as governor, would you address that issue and maintain that people, in the state of Nevada, don't lose their First Amendment rights simply because they're getting onto a social media platform?
Well, again, yeah, I'm big at not reinventing the wheel. I'm going to follow in those footsteps that it already worked at. Governor DeSantis has already had a law passed in Florida that basically takes any agency to task that are censoring speech of American citizens. And I will do the same thing in Nevada. We are not going to have censorship. And anywhere I find censorship, I'm going to tell people not to do business with those people that are censoring people. Because the problem in our country now is we have so much information, it's hard for people to depend on the truth. And we should be able to depend on social media to at least let people express their opinions and have freedom of speech. The left was purely happy when they were censoring the right. And now when we're leveling the playing field so that all free speech is protected. And of course, I don't support Putin on the Twitter. I don't support the Ayatollah. I don't support terrorists on there. But it's freedom of speech, and maybe we endure that. But we certainly don't censor liberals or conservatives. Freedom of speech is sacrosanct, and I will be everywhere and anywhere where people are trying to censor freedom of speech.
Well, let's talk about that here in the state of Nevada. You've had an issue here recently with your speech being curtailed by the Clark County GOP not allowing you to participate in some of the events because they put forward, you file as you're running for governor, you funded your account, but you're not doing things the typical way. And so in doing that, what have they done to you and your voice here in the state of Nevada?
Well, I really like that question because that's the Republican Party. It's basically 10-yard signs. It's a street sign. It's funding an office. It's all this partridge in a pear tree. And this is the electronic age. And so I'm not running the typical campaign. But anyway, I was invited. I did the debate in Reno. And actually, I got the same number of points as one of the candidates there that actually went down to Dragon Ridge in Las Vegas. I was invited down there to debate. I RSVP'd and accepted. I arrived, and then I got there, and I was told I couldn't debate. So I went to Jesse Law, the Clark County chairman of the Republican Party, and I said, Jess, what's the story here? I hear that I can't debate. He says, well, yeah, you really don't have a professional campaign. And I said, but what's specific? Well, it was the double secret criteria. I wasn't allowed to debate, and they shut my message down to the people. And from my standpoint, when I'm governor, we are going to have every candidate debate that wants to debate, and we're going to make sure that happens in the Republican Party. That was criminal. You, the voters, get to decide who you want to hear from. And I think you want to hear from someone like me that's going to revolutionize government and politics in Nevada. And I just was denied my ability of free speech and to pass my message on by the Clark County Republican Party, specifically Jesse Law, deciding who you should vote for. And let me tell you, I have a clue. I learned how this works. Republican Party says they don't support anybody in the primary. Yeah, okay. But the politically elite do. And almost a majority of the money comes from the politically elite, and they tell you who you can vote for by the most money. If you look at every selection of candidates that can debate and talk, it's about those with the most money. The problem is that's been going on for 40 years. How's it working for you, Nevada? I'm going to tell you from my standpoint, it's not. So it's time for less freedom of speaking your piece. And basically, you guys, I'm going directly to you with this Monday night campaign so you can hear someone that can actually make a difference for Nevada.
And that's it. Tell your friends and family, tell your neighbors that we're doing this every Monday night. So if you want to talk to the candidate, if you want to get questions answered, we're going to do that exactly here every Monday night. And we've been talking a ton about education. I was able to get the commercial back up. So let's run this one more time. Here's the commercial. It'll be hitting the airwaves here shortly to show you Tom's commitment to education in the state of Nevada.
I'm Tom Heck, and I approve this message.
Why is the Nevada education system last in the nation? Simple. Career politicians don't care about your children's education. If they did, Nevada wouldn't rank last. Tom Heck is running for governor for one reason: to revolutionize Nevada state government, beginning with education. But if 50th place is good enough for your kids, just keep voting for the career politicians. Otherwise, it's time to vote for a proven conservative leader. It's time to vote Tom Heck for governor.
So there we go again. Talking about the numbers, the stats are staggering that the state of Nevada is in 50th place. And if you look at all the numbers, you're actually in 51st place behind Puerto Rico. Moving on, right? That your state, you spent 40% more. You made a 40% increase in spending in the state, and it didn't move the needle. So what's your answer to solving this problem, the education problem in the state of Nevada?
Well, I mean, that's the other part of the problem. You know, we have this big industrial complex by Sparks in northern Nevada, and we bring all kinds of different, we got big opportunities in Las Vegas, but our kids don't have the skill set to take those high paying jobs. So we've got to focus on adult learning for our children. We've got to focus on teachers proving our abilities for our children to learn. Education, all the degrees that I have, is always about teaching someone to be able to teach themselves. And it's about the ability to learn. And that's what's important with our children. We have got to allow our children to be successful, and we've got to get all this miscellaneous distractions out of our education, and we need to return to the basics. Until we get reading, writing, and arithmetic straight, we can't afford to take on these other issues. We need to be able to have children that are 90% proficient in science, 90% proficient in English, 90% proficient in math and science, and we must do better for our future of Nevada and for the future of our parents and their children.
Well, the joke is that we have to teach our children math at a bare minimum, just so they know how to count up all of the genders that there are.
Oh, I probably need to count all the taxes that our state keeps leveling on them.
That's it too. You see, if you keep them dumb, they don't know how much in taxes you're charging them. So that's the push of the powers that be is to continue the status quo. So let's get into the dirt. We've been talking about some things that you've been talking about, but let's talk about what we can expect from the current candidates that are currently in and running, that are at the top of the ticket. So expected to win, just endorsed by Trump, which I think was the wrong decision, is Joe Lombardo. So what's your position on Joe and what he's done with crime in the state of, well, not the state, in Clark County? He's responsible for the public safety in Clark County. How has he done at that job? Number one. Number two, if he doesn't do that job right, should he be qualified to move on to be governor and keep people safe at that?
Well, you got to look what he's doing. He always brags about how big his budget is and how many people he has. But where the rubber meets the road, it's about metrics. It's about the measures of what he's doing. And again, I said it before. Clark County is number 6 in the nation as the worst crime city, but we hide it in Las Vegas. We hide it in Clark County. We still have not seen the report from Mandalay Bay as to what actually happened there. That's not transparent government. This is unacceptable. And you expect a guy who's a one-trick pony, all he has ever done is law enforcement. But Nevada government is not just law enforcement. It's health and human service. It's transportation, and on and on. You've got Dieter, which supports all the unemployment. And if he can't just fix one trick pony, that's what we talk about when you train a pony just to do one thing. If he can't fix that down in Clark County, how can we expect him to run the state of Nevada and make lives better for where people work, live, and play?
Well, with Las Vegas being twice as dangerous, you're twice as likely to be murdered in the city of Las Vegas in Clark County than you are in New York City right now. So they've got a real problem in Clark County. And if Joe can't control one county, how can we expect him to control the entire state? We can't.
Well, absolutely. They have shootings almost every night in downtown Las Vegas, and they try not to advertise it, but it's the truth.
Well, you can't fix the problem if you don't address it. You have to address the problem before you can get it fixed. And by
Right.
keeping it silent and trying to sweep it underneath the rug, it doesn't aid anyone. Let's talk again about what you're planning to do here in the state. The big issue tonight, again, is coming forward. It looks like the next governor of Nevada may be in a position to really drive um, the right to life message and so on. So, the big news tonight coming from Politico is that it looks like the Supreme Court, in a leaked document, is going to overturn Roe v. Wade. We don't know a timeline yet, but we do know that that's what Alito has said. It's the major opinion of the court. It's a leaked draft, not the final document, but it's being reported right now on Politico. You can go to Politico and you can actually see the document that they've leaked. But that'll give you an idea of where the nation is heading. We've got a real problem because the left is going to lose their mind. As governor, what would you do? What would your role be, and how would you protect everyone's rights while at the same time protecting the sanctity of life?
Well, again, I am unapologetically 100% pro-life. We will do everything we can to protect life. What people don't understand today is that our medical technology is so advanced that even premature babies with just a few months have survived. So, and we have some of these really cruel abortion process that they're killing babies at 9 months. We have got to stop this, and we've got to find a better way and a better educate people as to what this is all about. This is a human life. The goal is to protect human life in every way we can. It's sacrosanct. It's sacred to everybody.
Well, there's a story out of California. So we're talking about what's going on, and I think the reason the Supreme Court has done this is because of what California has just done. I think it's California. There's a new bill that they have up for a vote, and I think it's going through. I don't think it's up for vote. I think it's going through the committees right now. But basically, what this bill would do is it would allow a post-birth abortion up to 28 days, meaning that a parent could kill a child, and there's no question asked for the first 28 days. The Supreme Court now, it's being reported that the Supreme Court has they've leaked a document that showcases that the Supreme Court is going to overturn abortion and release it back to the states. What do you think that California will do with that information once? I mean, they're ready to kill babies outside of the womb now. They want to give the option of doing a 28-day extension on abortion after birth. So what would you do as governor in the state of Nevada to curtail all of this talk about abortion?
Well, as we always talk about, I just want to remind people, California is the land of fruits and nuts, and the policies they come up with are bordering on insanity. But we have to continue to protect life, and we will follow. You've got these states, Oklahoma, you've got Alabama, you've got Florida. We are going to protect life at every step of the way, and we will pass laws to protect that life and protect those unborn fetuses that are very viable at an early state nowadays because of our advanced medical capabilities.
We got a new question here from a talkative citizen, and this is a great one. This has to do with what happened this last Saturday here at the convention in Nevada, the GOP convention. What do you think of the recent Nevada GOP convention outcome? They didn't endorse you. Many candidates weren't endorsed. When you are governor and lead the party, what will you change? Take it away, Tom.
Well, I'm glad you asked that question because, again, I want to quote Chuck Muff. Chuck Muff basically says Republican never miss an opportunity to fail, and when in doubt, they fail anyway. I think the other thing he said was they have an innate ability to snatch defeat from victory every step of the way. When I'm governor, I'm going to work with the people so that we develop a party process that is focused on critical success factors. I've had arguments with the party over many years. The argument is we focus on registering people to vote, which is good. I don't have a problem with that. But we miss the whole big thing. We don't recruit strong conservative candidates. We still have people in our party that believes that we should vote for rhinos. Well, Nevada, let me ask you this. You have done that over the last 40 years, And just as I talked about recently, we put into law some of these election laws that are basically ripe for fraud with 3 Republican rhino votes. And aren't you tired of the same old, same old? Well, I'm going to work with the Republican Party to develop a process to make sure that we focus not only the critical success factor of registration, but the critical success factor of getting and hiring and motivating people to run as strong conservatives who are strong conservatives.
Well, that's one of the reasons. I'm going to jump in here, talking of citizen, and help Tom out here a little bit. One of the reasons that he brought me on board is I'm from Indiana. Indiana is a solid red state. We have a supermajority in the House. We have a supermajority in the Senate, and we've got a rhino as governor. That's going to be taken care of shortly. But it took 4 years to turn things around to the point to where we had a supermajority in both houses, and it came from running strong candidates. People that were strong conservatives. And that's what the answer is, not only in Nevada or for Indiana, but every state around the country, is that the state party, if they're not developing and working with candidates from around the state to get the very best people, then you'll never have leadership. You'll have rhinos and you'll have wannabes and people that go into politics because they can't do anything else. That's where we are. And that's why Tom is a great example. It's one of the reasons I jumped on this campaign as campaign strategist, is because Tom's top-down thinking about how we have to address things is spot on with where we are in the nation. This concept that we have to, for example, Dean Heller, rhino, right? We have Obamacare because of Dean Heller. Thank you, Nevada. You've got Joe Lombardo, who has time and time again shown that he's not a conservative. They all say the same thing, but they just don't have it. Lee, seriously? In Nevada, you're going to let a guy that was a Democrat a year ago, who's been giving to the Democratic Party for how long? Never given to the Republican Party, or very little? You're going to allow that kind of person to now run? When I say that kind of person, I'm talking about a person who's been fighting against you every step of the way for the last 40 years of their career. We need people like Tom Heck. We need people like Tom Heck, not only in Nevada, but across the country, to come into leadership roles. Tom, we're going to wrap up here. I'm going to go ahead and let you roll out. Tell the people that are currently watching why you think it's so important that we change up the leadership in this state at the very top, all the way through the party and so on, and why we can't expect to plant corn. We can't plant corn and expect to have watermelons. Right? We keep planting career politicians, and we get career politicians. Talk to us about your plan on fixing all of that.
Well, the biggest issue that I learned through the years of leadership and schooling is that the only way you change the culture is you have to change the leadership. Otherwise, you suffer through years and years of the same old, same old. Well, Nevada, you have suffered through same old for 40 years. Isn't it time that we do something different? Isn't it time we vote for a true conservative? Isn't it time we fixed our problems instead of throwing money at it? Isn't it time for someone strong, tough, and tested? Isn't it time to get rid of rhinos? Isn't it a time to get rid of career politicians who have buried us in the same old, and given you no particular good candidates to vote, and a Republican Party that's fighting amongst themselves using your donations to pay for their lawyers? That's criminal. They need to spend more time fighting Democrats than fighting each other. I'm Tom Heck. I am running because I will revolutionize government and politics in Nevada. I solicit your vote. I encourage you to come and continue to watch me on Monday nights at 7. I'm here to answer your questions because I'm bypassing the dictates of how we're supposed to run a campaign. I'm coming directly to you and letting you decide who you want to be your next governor. And if you want the same old, or whether you want someone unique and revolutionary. Thank you tonight. Thank you so much for attending. God bless America. God bless Nevada. And God bless all of you.
Thank you, Tom. We're going to go ahead and one more time show your commercial that will be airing sometime this week. Now, keep in mind, we have a ton of commercials coming down the pike for Tom in the next few days here. Keep an eye out on your TV, and especially on social media. You'll be seeing them everywhere as well. Here we go. This is Tom's new commercial, and we're talking about education here.
and I approve this message.
Why is the Nevada education system last in the nation? Simple. Career politicians don't care about your children's education. If they did, Nevada wouldn't rank last. Tom Heck is running for governor for one reason: to revolutionize Nevada state government, beginning with education. But if 50th place is good enough for your kids, just keep voting for the career politicians. Otherwise, it's time to vote for a proven conservative leader. It's time to vote Tom Heck for governor.
Thank you for being a part of the Tom Heck Digital Town Hall, where Tom is giving the people of Nevada their voices back. Join Tom every Monday night at 7 p.m. as he discusses his plans for Nevada directly with you, the people of Nevada. Do you still have questions? Call Tom directly, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. at 775-393-0500. That's 775-393-0500. And yes, Tom actually answers his phone. If you'd like to join the Tom Heck for Governor campaign as a volunteer, to make a donation, or both, please visit electech.com. Thank you again for being a part of Democracy in Action, and only on the Tom Heck Digital Town Hall. Mark your calendar now and plan to join Tom again next Monday night at 7 at electech.com, as well as these video streaming platforms.